Okay. Uh, Thank you for joining this class. So, as you might have seen as of now, that I'm the third TA. So, I'm Shakur. You can call me Shakur or whatever way you prefer during this class. So, yeah, I'm the third year for this course. So, I will be going through some of those concepts discussed in the class, and yeah, I can help you with any of the clarifications that you might have arise after going through those lectures. And yeah, feel free to stop anywhere in between the class. And yeah, if I drift into teaching stuff in Hindi, do remind me to go back so that I can switch back and speak in English so that you guys can understand it better and then learn it. Okay. I think the PPTs which we are using to teach, we are sharing it with the NPTEL team. I think you will be able to access those also. And I don't think you might need the PPTs as such, because these are already, the videos are being recorded, and those also will be made available in YouTube so that you can also go back and check on the videos also. Okay, hope that clarifies some stuff. Okay, sure. Let's start. So yeah, uh, there are like 46 of you here. So there may be very number of reasons you might have taken this course, ranging from like you're interested in wildlife, or you wanted to learn new course, or something like you felt like this is the hot topic currently, all these environmental movements going on. We should be learn we should be able to learn more about wildlife so that we can conserve them with all the climate change happening. So there may be varied number of reasons. I can't individually ask each one of you, because these many people, it gets difficult. So I myself, also did wildlife biology, so I can also relate to much of you people. So why you have taken the course? Okay. So hope to keep this as an interactive session, so feel free to ask anywhere. Okay. So when you see this word wildlife, so what is something that comes to your mind, or hear the word wildlife? Animals. Okay, good start. That's a good start. Okay. Forests. Okay. Forest, animals, and or if you don't feel like speaking up, you can just write in chat box also. That's up to you. So biodiversity. Okay, interesting. So yes, yeah, flora and fauna. So there are multiple things that constitute wildlife. It's just not animals. So there is the plants also come under this wildlife. So but the major way we think it of is, sorry. So as we think it of it as is with respect to animals, which is not the true picture, but we have a lot of other things. And someone said about wildlife photography. Okay, so that's a really interesting concept, which I'm not really a person who that's my personal opinion, but photography is more like a hobby, as compared to wildlife ecology, which you do, which we do. So yeah, environment conservation. uh, so these are the different aspects of wildlife that we really are concerned about these days. Okay. And okay, sorry. And the other word, ecology. what is something that comes to your mind when you hear the word ecology? Or let's say, let's keep it together, wildlife ecology together. Okay, someone said it is the study of organism and their interactions with the environment. Okay, or household study. Okay, that's a definition which you are stating. That's nice. But what do you think apart from the definition? In a layman's term, if you want to, explain to one of your younger brothers or younger sisters, like, I'm doing this wildlife ecology course. So it's like they ask like, what are you doing? So how do you try to explain to them? Yeah, agree. So yeah, that's more like yeah. So how do you explain it to a small person who might not understand what is interactions? What do you mean by study? I'm just curious. How do you approach? So there is no right answer to it. I'm I meant to say. So it depends on how the person is related to it. So if you take someone who is from major cities, they might be connected to wildlife by this, by having gone to trips along with their families to these protected areas or national parks or parks, or on safaris, something like that. But if you had to tell the same thing to a person who is from rural background, who might not have had the opportunity to go on places like this, so for them, whatever the birds they see, whatever the animals they see around their house, so that's what they have their own perception of wildlife. So yeah, so the relationship between living and the living things and their habitat. Okay, so that's the study, ecology, wildlife ecology in terms. Yeah, so the relation how we develop, it's different for each person. So that's, so it depends on how the person has you know been able to understand it. So as you people have been saying, the word ecology is, it's not an English word. It's it's basically, I'm not I think it's Greek. So it's derived from two words, oikos and logos. Oikos being household and the logos being study. And yeah, you guys have already said the definitions, which is like the study of interactions among organisms and their environment, or the interactions that determine the disturbance and abundance of organisms. So someone said the relationship between factors for animal and plant life. Yeah, factors that determine how an animal species lives, or where the animal species is present, or how it will be in an environment. So someone was asking on which YouTube channel recording of this lecture will be provided. So this particular will be provided on a YouTube channel that I have made. I can share it to you at the end of the lecture. So if you want to refer to it, you can refer to it. Okay. So let's dwell further. So what do you see in this picture, or where do you think this picture was taken in, or in broad terms, what does this picture depicts? Mountain, hilly areas, and someone was saying something. Some grassland. I don't think that's a grassland. That's a forest area. Someone rightly pointed out that's a forest area. It's close to. It's called forest edge. That's why you are seeing a lot of those climbers on the trees. Woodland, high mountain forest. You are really close, Laksha. You're really close. So this photo. So where do you think this photo is taken from? So you are describing the area, but where in India? So I'm giving a clue that it's taken in India. Where do you think it's taken in India? Any guess? If not, I can just go on. So Uti, yeah, very close to Uti, but yeah. So this is from Kodagu or Coorg region of Karnataka. So 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 this picture I used to depict, landscape. So ecology it has several different domains. Wildlife ecology is one of such domain, but there are multiple other domains that are in this field, the bigger field of ecology. So one such field is landscape ecology, where you study how things happen in the landscape scale. So landscape is something that you see it much higher scale, like since I'm referring to Kodagu region, so that whole area together can comprise the landscape. So you can, what is happening at the scale, if you are studying, if you are trying to understand at that level, so you call it landscape ecology. There you are not worried about single species or anything. You are more concerned about what is happening in that area as such. Okay, so now this. So I'm trying to put up pictures. If you can guess what ecology does that belong to. Okay, sorry, yeah. So similarly, this is, I meant to say, yeah, this is species ecology. So can anybody guess what this picture depicts here, or what? Yeah, can any idea? So you are seeing, there is a dog and there are few houses in the backdrop. So okay, uh, okay. So let me just help you with that. So the thing is here, the you might have been aware about stray dogs or street dogs, which are majorly sustained upon whatever waste generated by us in the urban areas. So there is the same case that happens in rural areas. So yeah, this picture kind of depicts that these guys sustain on places like these. And then there is also another field called movement ecology. Can anybody guess what do we study in movement ecology? What things do we study generally? Yeah, migration is one bigger aspect we study. Pattern of movement. Yes, we study like how species move in different places. And like, if for example, tigers, so they track tigers to see how they move in human dominated landscape, like how they move between from one protected area to another protected area through human habitations or villages, through agriculture fields. So why do you think corridors, yeah, really, so understanding movement ecology, let's say for example of tigers, will help us understand where all the corridors are. So the corridors are something, for people who might not be aware, these are places, like you can think it of roads that connect two different forest patches, which animals use to move between one forest to another. So those are called wildlife corridors. So to understand where these corridors are and then how should we protect, we need to understand movement ecology of different animals. So yeah, tracking. So we track them movements using multiple methods, like GPS tracking, satellite tagging, so on, which is, yeah. And then population ecology. Okay, so where you study about populations of species, how different populations, you know, go, yeah, increase or decrease or stay over a period of time. So whether the disease happens in the population or not, how, what's the birth rate, what's that, everything about you, A to Z of the population. It's like you go to a place and then you try to understand everything about what's happening to a single species in, in that. And the other thing is urban ecology. So urban ecology is this is a really growing field, because as you may be aware, we are also, urban areas are expanding. So it's not like you don't see anything in cities. You see a lot of animals, plants, like for example rock pigeons, everyone might have been aware of, or mynas, parakeets, blackheads especially. So how things go on in this area. So how do they, why do they stay, or why not some other birds stay in urban areas? All these things you study under urban ecology. And then global change ecology, how humans are influencing eco earth's cycles, the biogeochemical cycles like carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, these cycles, or you know how they are impacting ecosystems, some function the functions provided by them. So all this comes under global change ecology, and there are many number of ecologies. These are just broad ecology types that I have just given view of. Okay, so, so so what do you think is this words, what does this word depicts, what are distributions? Can anyone? What are distributions, and what do you know? Sorry, someone said something, but I, yes, that's one way of saying it. That's a really interesting insight. So pattern of arrangements. Nice. Someone says various organisms in different places. Yes. Uh, so anyone want to add anything other than these? Okay. So basically distribution, since we are talking about wildlife here, so the word distribution is talks about how they are distributed, or how they are present, or where all they are present, where they are they are not present, if you talk about some particular species of your interest. Okay, so since a lot of you might be aware of leopard or tiger or snow leopards, I'm going to use one such example here to help you understand what does distributions actually mean. So right, snow leopards. So do you think they are found in India? Yes, no, yeah. Okay. So where are they found in India? Yes, you're absolutely right. So what are those areas referred to as? Generally, any idea? If no. Okay. So they're called as trans-Himalayan regions, or greater Himalayas. They are where they are generally found. So if you have to plot on a map where all these species is present, so you want to find out where all these species present. So you call them distributions, kind of. So if you look at this map of potential snow leopard distribution across the world, so it's endemic to Palearctic region, and then Oriental region, or basically India in the Himalayan region, and then you go up into Mongolia, little bit Tibet, Afghanistan, and then into you go into Mongolia. Okay, so when you want to produce this type of map to understand where the species is present, you want to know where all the species are actually present, so that then you can make some sort of map. So when you have this kind of map, you tend to call you tend to use this for conservation related purposes. So understanding the species distributions, so this is what the distributions meant. Okay, where all the species is present, or it's likely to be present. So a map like this. Okay, so since we are talking about snow leopard, so what do you think is a habitat? Anybody? Habitat? Not about snow leopard. If you want to talk about snow leaves, exactly. So is the place where the organism exactly lives. Okay, so I'm going to show you few photos, and then you guys, yeah, home of various organisms, or the organism of your interest, the organism you're looking at. So now since we are talking about snow leopard, let's see where this. So you have to answer which which is the habitat for the snow leopard. Okay, from the photos. So out of the four habitats A, B, C, D that you're seeing here, which one or which of these do you think is the habitat of snow leopard? Sorry, or you can just D. Someone said D. Someone in answers put B. B. Okay. Can someone justify whoever said B or D? So why do you think it's B? Why not A or C or D? Even if you're wrong, I too don't know much about. I can help you, or we can just help out and learn. So there is no worry being wrong. Okay. Uh, does anyone wants to answer this, or should I go ahead? Mountain area. Oh, that's interesting. So then, Sabarish, what do you think is the answer? Out of A, B, C, D, you said mountain area. Which are options? Wild guess, color. Okay, that's really an interesting thing. So you just type down the answers. Okay, D. Sabarish said. Sorry. Okay, that's nice. So since you might have heard of from you may or you might have read, snow leopards are leopards that are found in the high altitude regions, basically high up in the Himalayas, especially in India. So where the temperatures are really cold, and there that way, the temperatures you get are like high up in the mountain areas. So as Sabarish has said, so the answers are B and D. So both are the snow leopard is present in both of these areas. Okay, this is from Spiti region of Himachal. So where snow leopard is present. Okay, so the regions, so when compared to A and C, which are relatively plains, which are so the that's not an area where the species here the snow leopard can can thrive. So where it can thrive is what we call as an habitat of that species. Okay, camouflage, color of skin, and mountain same. Yes, snow leopard is an exceptionally camouflaged animal. Unless until you have really trained eyes, you hardly can get to spot one. So in that aspect, it is a master of disguise. So so yeah, that's how it can really hunt its prey in those mountains, which are very really steep. Okay, so moving forward, yeah, the definition that you can see below is like natural home or the environment of the species that you are looking at. So, can anyone identify these birds? Yeah, nice. The left one, right one, rose-ringed parent, Prashanta said. Okay. Uh, I think you are muted, Lakshmi. I can't hear you. Yes. Okay. You're close. Anybody? Though, so yeah, a lot of people are saying right one is rose-ringed parakeet. You're absolutely right. I'm not sure whether it's male or female. So yeah. So left one. Anybody? Any guesses? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Someone said, Sabarish said it's buddies. Yeah, you're really close. It's Bajrega, or is are generally used as pets in home, especially as in cages. So you might have seen I have added two tags to those species. Okay. So what does those tags say? So one says native and the other says non-native. Do anybody want to comment on what could be a native and what could be a non-native? I meant to say species. Okay. Okay. Yes. 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 So yeah. So Sabarish said native are belonging to our country, non-native is from another country. So yeah, that's a way. That's how we define native and non-native, but it not in terms of a country. So okay. So it's not about the country; it's about the habitat. That's what we look at. Like Lakshmi has pointed. So we look at the habitat or the place of origin. So like say for example, rose ring parakeet is a native of India or Indian subcontinent. When you include Pakistan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, all these areas, even Sri Lanka, you call it an Indian subcontinent. So this species is native to this region, so you call it a native, or this, and non-native is something that's not from that region, or it's belong to some other region but has been due to various other issues is here. So it's not its original home. So yeah, even when you classify native and non-native species, there you can divide each one into two each. Like non-native can be exotic. Okay, yeah. So non-native can be either exotic species or invasive species, and native can be endemic species and widespread species. So I will use little bit of examples from birds and plants to help you understand this thing better. So then we can have a discussion on if you are not really not, you know you will not able to understand these concepts again. So endemic, what do you think is an endemic? Yes, anyone else? So what is an endemic species? Yeah. Yes. 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 So you're absolutely right. So endemics are basically, endemic species are the species that are geographically restricted. So let's say for example, the image you are seeing, the bird, it's called bugun leochikla. So it's only found in this place in Arunachal called uh, in a small place. I don't remember the exact place, but if you can google it, you can find out the place. So it's just found only in that place. And even like Lakshmi has pointed, the yellow-billed babblers, so these are present only to the southern India. And even there are species that are just present in Western Ghats and nowhere else. Okay, so those type of species that are geographically restricted. Andaman wild pig, Nicobar pigeon, I think it's widespread, I'm not sure. Yeah, but Mithun is a good example. So Mithun is, and you might have heard of gaur, right? It's close to the gaur, but I'm not exactly sure about how it is. But yeah, uh, it's a mammal. It's a mammal. Sorry, yeah, it's a mammal. Mithun is a mammal. Yeah, if you want, you can just please, you can find out, ask Google. But yeah, it's being recorded. I can put it, the YouTube channel link in the end, so you can check it maybe tomorrow if once I upload it in the evening. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, sure. So yeah, and then as I said, this is what we call widespread. So this is the distribution map from birds of the world. So the range of the species, as you can see, It's present in India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, even in Africa. So this is widespread and geographically. So that's a distinction between endemic and widespread. Okay. Now coming to the non-native category, we have exotics. So if you see a budgeriggar, which is this bird, it's native to Australian subcontinent. Okay. And if you happen to see this bird in India, so you call it an exotic. Okay, which is basically outside of its native range it's present. So those type of species are called exotics. Okay, and invasive. Everyone must have seen this along roadsides or in your safaris if you are going to one of those tiger reserves. These are present in plenty. So this is a plant called lantana. Its scientific name is Lantana camara. It's native to South America, and it's not only invasive in India. It's invasive in other regions of the world also. So this, as we have been discussing, invasive species is a species that is not from this region, from a region you are concerned about, but from some other region. And along with that, it competes in the ecosystem and completely has a lot of negative impacts on other species that are present in the ecosystem, and can thrive, and these species can thrive by themselves in those ecosystems. Okay, so the distinction between exotic versus invasive is exotics, they are there but they don't cause lot of damage or lot of impact on the ecosystems. But invasives, they can thrive, they can damage and cause a lot of ecological impacts. Yes. Yes. No. For a species to be invasive, it has to grow in huge numbers, outcompeting the native species. Exotic species not necessarily outcompete. Sorry, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It can just be, see, invasive species. If you, it's not it's not a black and white situation. It's like a kind of gray area where a exotic species tends to become an invasive species in the future. So once the what we call exotics nowadays can become an invasive species later on, but currently, based on the current conditions, the species does might not be having much impact, but in the future they might. So then they can be reclassified into invasive species. So this is a little gray area, but generally what happens is like on the invasive scale, lot of exotics or non-native species who are in the beginning stage, you tend to call them as exotic species. Okay, hope this is clear, or anybody want me to repeat it again, especially the exotic invasive. Okay, cool. So let me just say you about how lantana became invasive. Yeah, just few lines. So like the British, we have been under colonial rule for a while. So so their botanists who have been going around places, find documenting species biodiversity across the world. So they happen to come across this in in its native range. So they found it has this beautiful flowers, it can be planted and then in the gardens and stuff. So they have been brought somewhere to Mysore and or Bangalore, somewhere around that area where initial records suggest that thing, if I'm not wrong. So, and then later on, it became an escapee from the garden and started thriving in the wild. And yeah, now it's everywhere across India. And then yeah, you can't even just walk where there is lantana because it has these spines on its stems. Okay, so coming to how we do ecology. So Lakshmi, do you have any anything to add or any questions or something? Okay, okay, sure, sure, sure. Since I saw it, I just asked. So, yeah, so ecology, it can, you might have heard it in the video. If you are not heard, let me just help you with it again. So, there are multiple ways you do ecology. One thing is like theoretical ecology. This is mostly working with computers currently. These days you work with computers. Earlier you used to do calculations based on hand. So basically trying to understand how different things work theoretically, because you have knowledge about a system, and then you try to go put in that knowledge you have obtained, try to see if this changes, what will happen to that, the thing that you are trying to understand. Let's say, oh, I'm extremely sorry about this graph, but if you can make it out, this is a predator prey predator plot over time. No, not the images, but the one in the black and blue. So you might have heard of yeah, yeah, I know. They're superimposing. I don't want to mess around with it now. I forgot to change it. So, but you can see in the middle, right? So there is, there is a cycle, or you might have seen this in previous classes or other presentations also. Since this is what we call as prey predator dynamics, or which was explained by Lotka Volterra equation, or Lotka Volterra model, you can call. So basically, what it says ki as the prey and the predators goes in cycles. That's what it says. So much of this work or this understanding has come up from, we know these basics, like predator eats the prey. As the predator starts eating the prey, you know the number of prey reduces, the predator number increases. But as the predator number increases, the number of, the predators that has to starve increases, because the prey number of individuals it can eat is less. So their population will drop. Since the predator is less, again, then you will have the prey number again coming up. As the prey number increases, and again the predators tend to increase. So this goes in cycles. So how do you model? So theoretical people who are interested in doing theoretical work, they try to understand these things from, basic understanding of some concepts. And some people opt to do lab work. Like if you are trying to understand biogeochemical cycles, you can get, you know you can do li- you can do lab work. Or if you want to ask certain questions, like how a species do if I do something to the species. So either that way you can do lab work, or we can do field work, which is most of the what which is what most of the people in the field of wildlife ecology do. But there is a theoretical and lab work component which is really important also, but most of the work is done in field. So it has many techniques, like say for example, you might have heard of bird surveys or transects. So where you tend to walk in a straight line. See, if you are watching bird survey, you tend to walk like 1 kilometer straight line, and then try to count, or identify what all species you have seen, how many number of individuals you have seen. So those are some of the things that you do when you want to sample that way. Or if you want to if you're looking for, like say for example, dragonflies, which is the case that is happening here in some of the rock pools in Savandurga, that around Bangalore. So you tend to go and sample in those areas, because those species are present there. So you have some other methods to sample for different things. If you are working on soil and trying to understand biogeochemical cycles, you can go to field, collect soil samples, and see how things work. So this is how different aspects of field goes on. But this is a main part that that in the field of ecology. And then the other thing that happens is like collaborative field work. So if you're doing something here, and if you want to understand, because some of those things that you do are place specific, you can't do something else. Let's say for example, if you're working Western Ghats, there might not be something similar to that in some other part of the world. So you tend to use collaborate with other people who are working in that area where you can't go or work, or they can't come here and work. So you can do same thing multiple places and have a better understanding of things. So this is also interesting thing that happens in this field of ecology. So here is something, this map that you are seeing is a map of this project called NewtNet, called or Nutrient Network, where they try to understand how addition of nutrients to the soils change plants, because we are already increasing the number of the amount of nitrogen in the soils by pollution. A lot of different types of pollution tries to add all these nutrients to different soils. So to understand it, so there has been a global team that is trying to do. So that's how field work also happens in the field of ecology. So yeah, can anybody identify this person? If you're not able to identify, don't worry, I do. No, no, man. Yes, Linnaeus, you are right. Linnaeus. Okay, Linnaeus, as we know that he's, what is he famous for? Carlos Linnaeus, yes, right. What is he famous for? Okay, binomial nomenclature. Okay, Latinized and binomial nomenclature. Can you please explain? Can you please let others know what do you mean by binomial nomenclature? Yes, yes, you're, yeah, yes, you're right. Yes, yes. So yeah, as Sabarish also pointed out, the process it's helps in understanding, having a standardized name for different species. So he proposed, this concept we should have Latin names, and then we should have a single name for a single species. We should not, like, for example, everyone might see, a yeah, some species like, say, mango. So it's called something in Hindi, something else in Kannada, something else in Telugu, something else in Marathi, or it might be same some places. So it tends to vary. So to prevent that confusion, to refer to, everyone is talking about the same thing. So see, as the way we have, unique names, so he came up with this thing, we should have a unique name for each species we are trying to understand, or describing. In those days they were describing species. So what he termed it as binomial. So binomial means it's like two. We have like two words for the name. So as Lakshmi has said, the two words comprises of genus, the first word being genus, and the second word is species name. So genus, the first letter you start with capital, the other whole letters are smalls, and then you tend to italicize the words when you write it. If you're not able to italicize, you underline the words. That's what some of the rules that he after his work has been published, some of the rules people came up with. So as you can see here, this the first word, Panthera uncia, is the scientific name of the snow leopard. And similarly, Columba livia is the scientific name of rock pigeon. And Vulpis is the scientific name of red fox. Lantana camera, which is belongs to the genus Lantana, and the camera is the species name. Similarly, the Anoplolepis gracilipis, which is an ant species called yellow crazy ant. Okay, so he helped us standardize these names so that everyone knows what the other person was referring to when it comes to species. And coming to Latin, so yeah, when he proposed those, he intended to have a uniformity across. So then the proposal was to have the species name being in Latin. Nowadays it's not a necessity. You can have, names that are non-Latin derived also, but still some people tend to use Latin when describing new species. Okay. So what do you think this picture shows? Volcanic eruption. Nice. Other than that, any other thing from the drawing? Other things, let me just help you with. Okay. Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. Lakshya said study of biogeography. Okay. And someone else also has raised hand. Does anybody want to speak? Okay. I will take it as a no. Then, so basically this picture is trying to, depict, on the left side you can see the, nicely handwritten painting, or so of showing how, species, the way the plants are changing from the base of the mountain to the top of the mountain. As you can see, it's, at the base it's dense layer of, what you can say is the trees. As you go a little bit up, there are, very few trees, but it's still green, meaning there is some other plants that are coming up. But as you go up, you don't see any trees because it's just snow. And the right side is the names of the species that the author has found. So yeah, so these are the things that come under biogeography. Okay. So this is a drawing done by Alexander von Humboldt, who has, who was one of the contributors to the understanding of how species are distributed across regions. Yes, geographical distribution of plants and animals. Okay, since we are talking about biogeography, so this, what is this picture saying? Yes. Okay. Yes. So yeah, someone rightly said, yeah, basic thing is a world map. That's an absolute blank answer. And on the world map, we have, so different regions are shaded in different colors, depicting different regions. So there are five regions majorly. One is on from the left side, Nearctic, or the North America is called Nearctic, South America Neotropical, African Ethiopian or African, Palearctic is the whole of the Europe, Oriental is Indian, Southeast Asia, and then Australasia or Australasian region. So there are so these are the regions that that people had divided based on, the different type of species, either it be plants, mammals, or different animals they have, come across during the expeditions. Okay. Can anyone suggest who made this map, who might have contributed into the making of this map, or this idea that we can divide Earth into regions based on their species that are present? It's not Humboldt, but Humboldt came up. Humboldt's work was also part of the contributions. Basically, his work might have elicited the ideas for people to work, but it's not exactly Humboldt's work. There is another name which you might have heard, or in the lectures, just that comes just somewhere around Humboldt also. Okay, let me do the honors. So it's Alfred Russel Wallace. So where in his book The Geographical Distributions of Animals, where he talks about how species are distributed differently, different types of species across different regions of the world. And then after his work also, uh, some and yeah, based on his work and then other people's work, people started this ideas that we have distinct regions. And then there is this thing called Wallace's line, so which basically on this global world map you can see this area, right? That is what it's zoomed up here. It's called Sunda, which is like Malaysia, Borneo area, and then Papua New Guinea, and then Australia. So there is a line. It's not a physical line, obviously. It's it's an imaginary line just beyond which on the one side of the line there is distinct set of fauna that you see. On the other set of line there is other distinct set of fauna. Let's say for example, if you're talking about you know marsupials, it's not exactly south of the line, but it's present in Australia, but you don't see such kind of animals here. So it's not just the case of marsupial. There are plant species, there are insect species, there are mammals also that fall in this category. So that name, that line, that area, or the line where this distinction happens has been named in the honor of Wallace for his contributions for the understanding of biogeography. So that's why it's called as the Wallace's line. Okay. And recently, the recent study has updated these biogeographic regions into they increase the number based on further studies saying that these regions are relatively different from these ones, so we should call them separate. As you can see, there is Nearctic, there is Panamanian. Yes. So that is what Sabarish imaginary driver used to mark the species found in Australia and Papua New Guinea and South Asia. Yes, divider, sorry. Yeah. And yeah, they divided the area into further distinct places because they found out the because we have a better understanding now, and then we have better uh, access to technology so that we can understand things, some of the things that other previous generations couldn't do. So they divided it into 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 regions from the 5 regions which were proposed during the time of Wallace. Okay. So India comes under this oriental region. So in India, you know there are around 10 other biogeographical regions. Can someone say, and if anybody wants to say anything about one of those biogeographical regions or that you belong from, you can, yeah, you can please contribute. Okay, what is unique about Deccan Peninsula, or any animal that you feel is present from is a representative of Deccan Peninsula? Okay, so if you can't answer, it's okay, fine. Peacock, it's present all over the India, but that's a good try. No, don't worry. So if anybody want to add, you can please add. Keep on adding, so we can spend little time understanding these areas, so that I will then I can go what all these areas are. Regions are also called eco zones. Also, oh, okay, yeah. So the biogeograph. This is a biogeographic map of India, which are divided based on the different type of habitats or the zones they belong to. Saltwater crocodile. Yes, that's a really interesting thing, but yeah, it comes under, comes under the coasts. It's in the coasts. So yeah, let me just go through them. Uh, the first one is Trans Himalayas, which is the high altitude regions that are present. You can find Trans Himalayas in Sikkim. You can find it in Ladakh, especially that region is in Trans Himalayas, and even some areas in Himachal. And then just below Trans Himalayas, it's Himalayas. Okay. And then you have deserts, semi-arid regions, you have Gangetic plains, the where the Ganges goes, and Gangetic plains, you have this Gangetic river dolphin, which is endemic to India and is present in this region, Gangetic plains. You have Northeast India, you have coasts, you have Deccan Peninsula, you have Western Ghats. Okay, so there are some species that are unique to each each ecozones which we are referring to here, and some are species that are present across. So you might have heard the lecture and might have come across natural selection, survival of the fittest. Anybody wants to say what does this term suggest, or what do they mean? Anybody wants to talk about natural selection? Okay, yeah, someone said it's a mechanism of evolution. So yeah, so natural selection is one of the mechanism for how species evolve. Variation, overpopulation, struggle for existence, and survival of fittest. So yeah, thanks for that, pointing out the order in which things happen. So it happens like in a population that you are looking at. Let's say uh, there is a variation in some character that you are seeing. So that variation, if the variation increase in the population, that you then after that variation increase in the population, there is a struggle for existence, and then the ones with that variation, if they are able to survive, so the ones that are fitter in that environment with happens to be the same individuals that have that variation, so they tend to survive, outcompete the ones which doesn't have in that environment, and then they tend to evolve, or they tend to be selected in that environment. So yeah, so it's not the same people who have brought up the idea of natural selection or the term survival of fittest. So these are by different set of people. So natural selection, the idea of natural selection came from work of Charles Darwin, and then simultaneously Wallace also happened to come up with this independently. So the idea of natural selection was from there, but the term survival of fittest was proposed by someone else. Who was that? It's not Darwin, right? Or is it Darwin who came up with the term the survival of the fittest? Sorry, Darwin. Okay. Does anybody has any other ideas who came up with the term? No, man. Carlos Linnaeus passed away before Darwin. I think Darwin put up this idea of natural selection. I doubt it was Charles Darwin. Sorry. Yeah, it's not Charles Darwin, but I'm not able to remember the name exactly. Uh, yeah, it's not Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin just put up the idea, but uh, yeah, there is some other person which I think I would request you to please go through the lecture where he points in the uh, history part in the second lecture. He says that the term was coined by some other ecologist. No, not Lamarck. Herbert Spencer. Yes, I think it's Herbert Spencer. I'm not sure, but yeah, thanks Lakshya for that. Yeah, Soumya also. Yeah, a lot of people have put up. Yeah, it's Herbert Spencer then. Uh, so yeah, the idea was brought up by you know Darwin and all, but the term the survival of the fittest, because natural selection it is the it is it just a compressed word for what is happening behind the scenes in natural selection. So that's why the word aptly fits it, but it's not by the same person. Okay, so can anybody talk about these things? So what are these? So let me just give a little context. So there are two, you know, two set of plots you see. One is in red here, and then one is in blue. So red is what we can call as the initial population, and blue is the population that is in the later stages. Arrow is the direction of selection that is happening. Hmm. Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. Anybody wants to add any other things that she might have missed? Okay, I will take it as a no. Someone said types of population distributions. Yes, it's types of population distributions, but how those population it's also depicting how those populations are changing over time. Okay, and then the change in phenotype or genotype of the population. Yes. So before I go and discuss these things, so why do you see this graph? There is there are few on the outside, and there is a peak, and then there is there is an extreme. Why not they just a single line like this? Hmm. It's not really that. I think that's what the plot is, but what you are trying that. That's a nice one. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice one. So basically, when you look at this plot, it's you have a distribution. You call this a normal distribution. Okay, in statistics or mathematics. So what does it say? Ki, if you look at these values here, there are some individuals. If you since we are talking about a population, with let's say for example we are looking at height of a species. There are some individuals that are very short. There are some individuals that are this height, and there are some individuals that are extremely tall, right? So you don't see just one height, all the individuals of same height in a population. You see a variation of whatever thing that you're trying to understand, whether be it height, weight, or some any other trait that you're looking in a species. Okay, so you tend to have this natural variation that is present in the population. That's why you tend to have this normal curves where you have some extreme values, some mid values. So we talk about the selection on how those traits change across time. So coming to this thing, let's see in this example. If you say, let's say we have this population where we have these light colored beetles and these dark colored beetles. Okay, and then we have this initial range phenotype, but as a selection, okay, this class technically goes till to 8, but yeah, that's the time 6 to 8. So yeah, in stabilizing selection, what happens is, as you can see, there are light colored beetles and then dark colored beetles. So after few generations, because of the selection pressures that are acting on the population, if the number of beetles in the after 10 generations you're looking, or 100 some thousand generations you're looking, when it becomes uh, you don't have this either both the extremes, so it stabilizes towards the middle values where you have these medium colored individuals. Instead of that, if you have if the selection favors let's say for example dark colored individuals only, so the individuals that are light colored tends to slowly go from the population, so where the whole population means shifts to the right, and then you have much more darker individuals in the population. While disruptive selection or the diversifying selection, that's what this says, it's you can call it disruptive also, where that environment favors both light colored beetles and dark colored beetle, but not the ones with the intermediate values. So you tend to have this curve splitting up into two different, as you can see here. Here one of the traits is favored, so you call it's moving, the whole population is moving to one side, one direction. So that's why you tend to call it directional selection. Values. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me just go over this again. In stabilizing selection, in stabilizing selection, the mean traits the selection tends to act and push individuals in the population to have that all to have these mid traits in this region. So you call it stabilizing selection. While exact opposite to the stabilizing is disruptive, where the selection pressures tends to favor the individuals which are having the extreme traits, either if you're talking about height, it will favor either very short individuals or very tall individuals, not the ones with with medium height. Okay, similarly directional, you either favor one side of the distribution, either you just favor taller individuals or you just favor smaller individuals. Okay, hope this is clear. Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. So let's talk for a few more minutes, then I think I might finish soon. So if you can interact better, we can make this little better. So what do you see here is a Madagascar star orchid. Okay, what's so special about this? So since we are talking about evolution, uh, this species is connected to Darwin and Wallace simultaneously. So the thing, because the story goes as is key, this species is endemic to Madagascar. Madagascar, it's just east of Africa, in the bottom right of Africa. If you see in the map, you can get to see it there. So this species is present only in Africa. So someone in those era of explorations, someone happens to take this orchid to England, which used to be the place where people were documenting from, and it happens to come to the hand of Charles Darwin. So he hypothesized there has to be a pollinator, that can reach. So this is the flower, and this is the corolla tube. Yes, Darwin star orchid. Someone rightly pointed it out. So this is the corolla tube through which the whatever the animal can access the nectar the flower provides. Okay, so he said ki there has to be some some animal that can have that much long long whatever structure it uses. Let's say, for example, if it might be proboscis, it might be a beak or something. And then Alfred Russel Wallace, he said it has to be a moth of hawk moth's family, because the way the structure is and the way that much length can be obtained only in hawk moths. So, but they passed away. They couldn't find them because they couldn't spend much time during that time. But later on, in 2021, some people found out that a moth like that really exists. For comparison, the one that you are seeing on the right is a moth of normal spingidae moth or the hawk moth family. They generally have two times the length of their body size. Proboscis is a structure butterflies and moths majorly use for drinking nectar. But on the left is the moth Darwin and Wallace has predicted, or that has pretty huge proboscis to reach the nectar that this species provides. Okay, so interestingly enough, as I was saying, that convention of naming doesn't need Latin to be there. They named this moth predicta, meaning it's a predicted moth. It has been predicted by scientists way ago, but they happen to find it now. Then they named it the common name as Wallace's sphinx moth. Okay, so what does this thing depict? So this example, the orchid, the moth, what do this tend to depict? Yes, adaptability. So what happens with adaptability? You're close. Sorry, Prashanta, you were saying something? Okay. So Rusbe, you were saying that yeah. So you are saying that moth tends to evolve, structures. Yeah, okay. So structures that are, similar for the plant. So yeah, as okay, please go ahead, speak. Lakshya. Yeah, anyone. Does anyone wants to speak? Okay. Okay, I'll take it as a no. So, as Prashanta said, it's coevolution. That's what you had described earlier. You had tried to elaborate it. So, since there is this or plant that has this long corolla tube, you had to go through to access it. There are some insects that has evolved to access that nectar. So, as that thing goes on, so you call that type of evolution as coevolution, because both of them are evolving together. So what happens in this type of evolution, if you happen to remove one of those partners in this, in that evolution, that has evolved together, the other partner will die out, because they're mostly dependent on their partners, because they have been doing these interactions for lot of centuries, thousands of years. Okay, so both the partners that have evolved together, co-evolved together, uh tends to have this thing. Okay, and so there is another thing. Okay, just give me 5 more minutes. I will paste down the link in the description, in the message box, because I had to. I will just. This is the last slide, I think. So there is this initial interesting example called Antacacia mutualism. So these ants are found in uh, neotropics, basically South America majorly. It belongs to the genus called Pseudomyrmex. So the thing about is they nest. So the plants provide a cavity in their hole in the tree, basically the thorns, for these ants to nest. So they're so minute, but they're present in huge numbers. So they provide nest, and then these ants in turn provide protection. And then in the left picture, you are seeing these yellow colored bodies that you are seeing. So those things are called Belchian bodies, which these ants harvest as free food from uh, from the plant, so that they can sustain themselves in times where there is the food is scarcity. So the plants provide place and food, and ants in turn provide you know protection to the plants from herbivores, so that they can't feed on them. So this has been happening. So it's called Belchian bodies. Okay, so it's a plant structure only. So these ants tends to eat them. So these interactions have been evolved over long period of times now. So now the plant knows that this, if this ant is present, it can help me in protecting myself. I can have protection. So the only thing that I has to do is spare few thorns for it to nest, and few food producing, produce few Belgian bodies, so that it can have feed itself, sustain itself on. So this is how mutualisms are also evolved. Uh okay yeah, I think that's the last slide I have. Let me just quickly share the link for you, then we can talk little for a little while again. Just give me a minute. So if anybody has anything, just please drop some questions in, or any topics that you want me to talk about. Drop some message, or you can just start speaking out, so that I can help you understand, or any concept that you have not understood from the class, from this class, from what we have been speaking for the past 1 hour, or the one that you have seen in the NPTEL website. So I was just asking, so if you have any questions, please you know uh, drop a message here, or you please speak up, so that from this lecture or other lectures, or that you have you might have seen, or you might have heard. The first week, with respect to first week, anyone, anything, or if you want me to talk about anything else again, like you want to have discussion on some other concepts that we have discussed today. uh, just a minute, if you are looking for the channel. Uh, what topic was discussed in yesterday's class? So since okay, no, someone wrote, so I was trying to ask that. So yeah, yeah, please go ahead. You can tell to them so that I can add little later also. Okay, okay. Just if you can see the same photo as my Google, my mail, the photo that you are seeing now on your screen. Can you see with respect on the channel or not? If that is there, then you are on the right channel. It's called Abdul Shakur IAC NPTEL. Just see if you can, see that. So the classes are on Friday 6 to 8. The timings are 6 to 8. Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. So one of the three TS will take on each day. So yeah, yeah, yeah. It has not been. So I will just upload it. Right. It's a new channel that I created for this. So yeah. So you can see my name, and then there is so, not daily. It's just like 3 days in the week. Like Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. Okay. Uh, let me. I think let me just paste the link. Yeah, this is it. It's the same thing. Okay. So anybody has any other things that you want to add or you want me to cover, or yeah, general feedback, because yeah, I'm teaching online for the first time. So what you felt like, should it be more interactive, or what were you yeah, let's make it this way. So what were you expecting from this class? Anybody, if you just don't want to speak, you can just write it in the message, so that for next time when we meet, I can try to modify it in those aspects. Uh, uh, okay. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, since yeah, I agree. Yeah, so but the problem is that each of us are supposed to teach everything that's been there. So that's what we have been asked. That's what we are supposed to do. So there might be some repetition, please bear with us. But since, as you might have seen, the way three of us teach different aspects, focusing on different things, so you might be able to get different things out of different classes. But yeah, that's something that we really can't avoid, repetitions. But I hope to, at least I will try my best to add some other concepts, or some other, not concept as such, but to present it in different ways, so that you might get little something else out of it. No, 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 I got it. Oh yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Since you get 1 week since the way each week classes are released, so there will be, consequently classes are being covered. So we'll try to repeat that, and then since we are in touch with each one, so we can also coordinate, and then we'll try what we can do. So like, yeah, uh, link to, so this class I will post after dinner, hopefully tonight, so that you can access it by tomorrow, I guess. And once the video recording gets converted, okay. I might not be there in all of the classes, but if you have anything, you can, I think you have my mail, you can just write down a mail, just mention that you are talking with respect to this, I can get back to do that. And with respect to videos for the past classes, that thing, you please ask the NPTEL team, because we have been sending all of those things, links to the NPTEL team. I'm not sure about the links from other people who has done the TA, but mine will be uploaded here. Okay, I think, yeah, Chitti Arvind's will be uploaded on their channel. Okay, if you are, yeah. And someone asked me to summarize today's class. Okay, let I will just go over it quickly. So what all things that we have covered. Let me just. So Abhijit, what link were you asking about? Oh, okay, okay, sure, sure. Take. I thought you were asking me something. So basically, we tried. So what has happened in the first lecture was like, so what is ecology, and how do we study ecology, and then different types of ecologies. Because ecology is such a broad term, you have to you try to divide it into multiple stuff, and then definitions I'm not going to go around with again. So yeah, so we have multiple subsets, subfields of ecology, like landscape ecology, species ecology, movement ecology, population. If you're looking at populations, you call it population ecology. Urban ecology, if you're looking things that are related to urban areas or species that dwell in urban areas. And global change ecology, if you're trying to understand how humans are changing different aspects of contributing change in ecosystems or biogeochemical cycles, or land use change. Also these things come under global change ecology. And we spoke about the importance of distributions. How, why do we need to understand distributions? Basically distributions talk about yeah, lacustrine ecology, where you talk about lakes and stuff, I think, lake ecosystems. uh yeah, you can just, there are n number of ecologies. I just pointed a few. Just don't take it as the whole list, there are a lot of lists, but I just pointed a few. And when you talk about ecology, when you're trying to understand specific species or study single species, you tend to try to see where all the species is present or absent. So those type of maps where you have where the species locations, where the species is present or absent. So those type of maps, tell those type of maps are called distribution maps. So the understanding the distributions is necessary to various aspects of it. Like for example, if you want to conserve that species, let's say, you need to have understanding of the species, how it goes. Like snow leopards in Himalayas might be behaving differently from snow leopard in Mongolia. So you need to have the better understanding what happens in different regions. So that's why you need to have understanding of where all the species is present. So that's how distributions are important when you come to talk about a single species. And then habitat is something the species is present in, or the natural home or the environment where the species actually belongs. Okay. And similarly, we talk about native species, non-native species. Native species being species that are present from a region, or confined to a region, or originally or belongs to the region. Okay. Or non-native is something that is from some other region. Okay. And you can classify native into endemic and widespread, non-native species into exotic versus invasive, where endemic species are some species that are restricted by their geographical distributions, like this one, the bird shown, which is Bugul chikla. So the other interesting thing about this bird is happen to be the the last recently described species of bird from India, which is like 20 years ago. Some 20 years ago, this bird has been described. This is the इसके बाद after this bird no other bird has been described from India. Okay. 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 I meant to say here description. I don't know. I might not come across what you are saying. Thanks for those inputs. But thing is, description here is it's a okay. 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 Sure. Sure. Yeah. So I meant to say description means this species is new to science. I meant to say in those aspects. So that species might be a new record for this region. Yeah. So and then we had talked about what are widespread species, that are species that have huge range. They are present across multiple regions of the multiple places. And exotic species are species that that have native range of somewhere else, that are present in some place where they doesn't belong. Okay. I hope you people are not exotic to these codes. I hope you people are native in that aspect. And similarly, invasive species are species uh, that have this potential to have damage the ecosystems or damage the interactions and have widespread impact in the ecosystems. And they are they are really widespread, and then they outcompete the native species also. And then we do field work. We do in ecology, there is theoretical work involved, there is lab work involved, there is field work involved, and you can travel places, some exotic places where you can't go when you are not doing field work. So that's the perks of doing wildlife ecology. And then yeah, we talk about okay. Hmm. I think we can do it at the end once I finish this up, where I can stop the recording, then we can chat for a while. Sure, yeah. So, so we talk about binomial nomenclature, the importance of having a common name for a lot of species. We have multiple number of names. Instead of having that, you can have uniform set of rules where you can have species name by two names, like the first name indicating genus, the second name indicating species. So that's what Corliss Linnaeus came up with. And then we talk about biogeographic regions, and how they came into how the work of explorers and naturalists brought together our understanding of how species are distributed across regions. And then we talk about Wallace's line, which is a line region which has divides geographically the fauna. And then because of yeah, it's not where you find different set of species with different characters. And then these regions have been updated recently. So yeah, some people might tend to still follow the old pattern, but yeah, it will take time for these things to come up. And then we talked about different regions in India, sub India especially. Then we spoke about a little bit about natural selection and the survival of the fittest, how natural selection tends to act. what are the different steps in natural selection, who came up with the idea with natural selection. And yeah, if you are really interested, there are, I think you can google and see. You might go to natural history museum websites and see how they where the voyages of these famous naturalists, Alfred Wallace, and then uh, Charles Darwin, have been described, where you can just go. It's just a simple reading where you can enjoy going through how they had traveled across, what all things made them come up with these ideas, how things have come up. And then we spoke about different types of selection, and then how they operate, like more directional, being one set of trade gets selected in the end as a result of selection, while stabilizing selection, you get the medium, or the ones in the middle get selected, and then the whole population tends to shift into the middle. And while disruptive selection, it's exactly opposite of stabilizing, where the extreme values of the in the population tends to be selected. And we talked about this Madagascar star orchid, or Darwin star orchid, which is a classic example of coevolution, and how they come up with the theory that this pollinator exists for this type of you know species. And then we talk about this other example of where ant and acacias tend to co-evolve and to live with each other. Okay, I hope that was but that was fast, but I think that did the job of summarizing of what we had spoken today, right? That's it. Yeah, so if anybody has anything, yeah, you can ask again. Yeah, we have another 15 more minutes. Previous year questions, I had no idea, I'm sorry, because I'm doing it for the first time, this thing, so I can. Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, thank you, Lakshmi, for adding it up. So I think the assignments are mostly based on what has been taught, and then we were also trying to. That's one of the main reasons we are trying to stick to the course, because most of you people will want to write the exam and then try to get credits out of it, so that you can make use of attending this course. So that's one of the main reason we are trying to repeat it again, even if it has been repetitive. Try to go just along what has been taught and trying to add some other things, so that you can relate or understand these concepts better. So the assignments, I think, cover much of what has been taught for the week in the course. So yeah, some of them are, you might be, just like technical ones, like, or just you have to remember them, just like the names or people of what of work they have done. Some might, maybe, you have to, if you have an understanding, then you can might be able to answer some. I think this it's a mix of this. I had no idea about that. You can talk to NPTEL team, Srinath. Okay, thank you. And then I think I will stop the recording for now because I think I'm done. If there is anything related to the this lecture questions, we'll continue, or else we can. I will stop the recording. If there are any other questions, we can discuss for a while after that, because we don't want these things to be there. Matlab, unless and because these things are not necessary to be present. So yeah, is there anything that you have any doubt clarifications about from the lecture first? Okay, then I will take it as a no, and then I'll stop recording.